we also need to understand that the firm's external environment has more impact on our governance and your survivability and sustainability of a corporate. So, keeping that in mind, it's important to have a holistic framework where you take into consideration the environmental impact, whether it is internal, external, of various stakeholders.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast series by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi, and I'm truly looking forward to today's conversation because we are joined by someone whose leadership journey is nothing short of extraordinary. From flying strategic missions with the Indian Air Force to driving profitability across 650 plus financial branches, Mr. Sanjay Jadhav has worn many hats, and each one has come with its impact, depth, and transformation. Mr. Sanjay, Jai Hind, and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders.
And thank you for having me, and happy to share this space with you.
Mr. Sanjay, what really stood out to us was not just the scale of what you have handled, be it rupees 60,000 crore defense budgets or 3,000 plus team members in the private sector, but the consistency with which you have delivered excellence across such different worlds. All right, Mr. Jadhav, so let's get started. Here comes my first question. Mr. Jadhav, why don't you take us through your career journey? We would love to hear it in your own words from where it all began to where you are today.
So, I have worked across industries and the military. So, that effectively allows me to lead efficiently. And if you talk about my journey, my military journey started with around 33 years of total work experience. Out of that, 23 years involves the military. If I talk about the military part, before that, I would like to state that I started very early in life. I started my first job was as a sales executive in Data Pro, and then subsequently a business development manager in Megabyte. Subsequently, I joined the Indian Air Force and spent around 23 years. That space of 23 years can be broadly divided in three parts. One is the initial individual professional development part. The second part is the strategic leadership and learning and development mentorship part, and third is the strategic decision making. So in the first part, mostly it was mostly focused on developing my professional proficiencies, achieving my professional proficiencies. Once I crossed that hurdle, then I transitioned into a learning and development mode where I was mentoring, handholding people, leaders across hierarchy. And this effectively was done over three different types of aircrafts. After that, then I transitioned into a director's role where I was helming company policy, that is Air Force policy, in terms of the capability build-up of the organization, in terms of what should be the combat capabilities of the organization going 15 years or 20 years down the line, helming various combat doctrines which are today in vogue in the organization, and basically transitioning this perspective plans and capability development plans into procurements, executing them. So this was the basically the Air Force part of my journey. Subsequently, I transitioned into the corporate world. Here in the corporate world, I started my journey can be broadly divided in two parts. One is the banking space, and a very short time I spent in the manufacturing space. In the manufacturing space, I worked as a head of a department in Mahindra Manufacturing Limited, which is the Asia's biggest plant. Subsequently, and as far as the finance sector is concerned, I have worked in three different organizations. I started with Muthoot Fincorp, then transitioned into India Infoline Limited, and then finally my current role in Muthoot uh, Fincorp. The first organization I stand corrected was Muthoot Finance. So, having transitioned across these three different organizations in the financial space, I transitioned from a regional level role to a regional level role to a strategic head role, and uh, managing teams from as small as 300 people to 3,000 people, managing portfolios up to 5,000 crores, basically doing end-to-end responsibilities, profitability. And currently, I have now graduated into a countrywide role of a strategic head. So effectively, in the last uh, few years, I have effectively transitioned from a regional strategic unit management to a countrywide strategic unit management. And now, today, I'm in a situation where I'm helming corporate partnerships and various initiatives for the organization. So this has been my overall journey in the past 33 plus years, and that is how I transitioned.
What an incredible journey, Mr. Jadhav. The transitions, the scale, and the consistency of purpose really come through. Thank you for walking us through that. So, continuing our conversation, Mr. Jadhav, as you were sharing your journey, I could not help but think this isn't just a story of growth, it's a story of scale with soul. I mean, 650 plus branches, three zones, over 3,000 plus people. That's not a role, that's an ecosystem you are leading. And yet, somehow, it never feels mechanical. So, I have to ask you, how do you manage something so vast and still stay so connected to the people behind the numbers?
Uh, One of the essence of my leadership was basically, if you talk about divided in two or three parts. One was understanding the ground reality, then earning the trust of the team, hand holding, and then finally aligning the team objectives with the organization alignment or the organization goals. So, in order to manage the span of control, the first thing which I did was uh, understand the ground reality by visiting the branches. So, here specifically, if you talk about specifics, I started focusing on remote branches where other officials had very rarely or never visited. Here, when I visited, another aspect which I focused on is what are the available market opportunities, what are the various target groups, what are the emerging threats. And this effectively I did as a mystery customer. So uh, it also allowed me to benchmark the competition. Now, while doing so, having understood what is the ground reality, there was very important aspect was earning the trust of the team. So earning the trust was basically done by interacting right down to the ground level, ensuring that they understand what are the opportunities available, breaking their perceptions, handholding them, participating in activities along with them. For example, when I used to visit the branches, I used to ensure that they organize a activity, social engagement activity with the target group, which we are targeting. So effectively, this allowed me to showcase my interactive and business development skills and bring in that confidence that what as a leader I am doing, they can also do. So this was also reinforced by activities like regular town halls, review meetings across the hierarchies, getting the lowest possible person in the frontline staff to the meetings and interacting with them, understanding their problems. So this effectively allowed me to earn the trust. And another aspect, very important aspect, which I incorporated in my entire leadership was have an open door policy. So when you have an open door policy, basically what happens is almost everyone tries to approach you. And the biggest way anyone, uh, when they come to you with a problem, is to address that problem by giving them a solution. So effectively, what happens is when you have an open door policy, what happens? People across the hierarchy approach you. When they approach you, you try and help them with a solution so that they go away with the feeling, yes, there is someone who is willing to hear us and also give us a problem, a solution to our problem statement. While doing so, I also ensured that the hierarchy in between is not diluted and it is also empowered, it is involved. So having done that and earning the trust of the team, the next part came was benchmarking their skill levels, understanding what are the skill gaps, then hand holding them to build them up to the required standards, getting them to motivating them to get take ownership. Once this part was done, the hand holding and the mentoring and the training part was done. Subsequently, the uh, last aspect which I focused was aligning their uh, expectations and goals with the company goals, the company objective. So overall, if you look, if this was mostly focused on because if you are managing a span of control as large, spread across geographies, three different states, it is very important that you empower your team, generate that trust so that they know that if they take ownership of their goals, of their objectives, and go wrong somewhere, they have the confidence that the hierarchy or the leadership will support them, knowing fully well that their intention is good, right? And then having done that, after that, then it is a free run. Your organization, your team starts operating on its own. So overall, if you see, this is how I managed the span of control and I transitioned the entire team from maybe a mediocre performance to a high performing team.
That really resonates, Mr. Jadhav, and it's clear that the numbers may be big, but for you, the people behind those numbers always comes first. Thank you for sharing that perspective.
And we have a saying in military that the man behind the machine is more important than the machine. So that is one principle which I literally try to implement here to understand, to earn their trust, connect with them emotionally, so that they can go to the next level and have that fun.
Rightly said, Mr. Jadhav. All right, so moving ahead and continuing our conversation, when I look at your journey, 5 commander-in-chief citations, authoring national defense policies, shaping combat doctrines, and then look at you today, driving financial growth across massive portfolios. It's honestly remarkable. You have lived two different leadership worlds. How do the sharp discipline of the military and the fast moving nature of corporate life come together in your leadership style?
That's a very interesting question because I faced this question many times in life in corporate. Because what happens is people tend to bracket you when they see you that, okay, this guy is from the military, they tend to stereotype you. So, what needs to be understood here is that military leadership involves a lot of things. And if you talk about me, the military leadership as such taught me to take ownership. It pushed me towards relentless pursuit of professional excellence. It insisted that I lead by example. It always pushed me to strive for to deliver results, and it also intervened when I was kind of falling short on various expectations. Overall, if you look, uh, this is how you build a leader over a period of time. Another aspect of military leadership, which is often misunderstood as discipline, is when you are talking about discipline. Discipline is about delivering the end result, irrespective of the challenges you are facing. In order to deliver, the very important aspect is teamwork, participation of your entire team, ownership of the entire team. So these are some things which are very relevant even today in the corporate world. And in order to ensure that your team takes the ownership of the mission or the task at hand, you have to be democratic. So military is not like uh, my way or the highway. It is a very participative kind of leadership where every team member, irrespective of his hierarchy, has a say in the mission goals, so that when you are finally setting out to uh, achieve that mission, is what uh, he takes full ownership of it, and you deliver on what is required. A very good example of is today's skirmish, military skirmish between the uh, our neighbor, and whatever we have achieved in this military skirmish is a embodiment of whatever I have spoken to. It is a very good example of all those value systems which we have in the military. Now, coming to corporate, where does the corporate and military leadership meet? The corporate and military leadership meet at the ground. The common ground is that participation, having a participative leadership, having ethics, values, compliance, transparency, hand-holding, teamwork. All these aspects are very much relevant in the corporate world. And in order to deliver at the scale at which the corporates today are working, at the global scale or even at the pan-India scale, it is very important that you imbibe these value systems. Otherwise, what will happen is the organization will pull in different directions, and it will eventually impact not only your employee morale, uh, but also your business numbers. So that is how uh, uh, often people uh, tend to uh, bifurcate military leadership and corporate leadership. However, that is not true to a certain extent. Why? Because military leadership is equally relevant in the corporate world, and it makes a person who's coming from the military a more efficient and effective leader in the corporate world, because he can manage uncertainty, he can deliver in any particular circumstance, especially given the current scenario of the marketplace.
Absolutely, Mr. Jadhav, and that's such a powerful connection. It's rare to see both of those worlds so seamlessly come together in one leadership style. So, thank you for giving us that perspective.
Thank you. And I really appreciate the fact that you are uh, able to grasp the whole essence of what I'm trying to do.
Thank you so much. All right, so Mr. Jadhav, what's really striking is that while you have operated at scale, you have never lost sight of the ground realities, especially in rural markets. I mean, implementing BTL strategies across Tier 2 and Tier 3 regions and building need based product portfolios that take serious intent. So, in today's fast paced urban first world, how do you think companies can break out of that mindset and truly unlock the potential of India's underserved markets?
A very good question. In order to break the current corporate mindset or unlock the underserved markets, it's very important to understand the overall uh, global scenario and what is driving the Indian economy. Today, India is one of the fastest growing economies. Our inflation rate or the rate of growth is averaging around 6.5, and average inflation rate of low at a very low rate of 4.5%. And what is driving this growth is our demographic advantage, then the age of our workforce, uh, their aspirations, the various government policies. All that put together is creating a space in the market where there's a demand surge. This is also supported by rapid urbanization of our markets. So when this urbanization happens, the population, which was mostly earlier focused on metros, is now the demand, which was mostly focused in the metro areas, is now shifting to the urban and rural markets. That is the tier one and tier two cities. Now, our current infrastructure is mostly focused on the metro and semi-metro and highly urbanized areas. So there is a need to pivot from the metro focus to urban and rural focus. And that the reason for that is because right now the demand is mostly in these markets, and the infrastructure is not able to cater for these demands. And these demands, whether it is financial lending needs, borrowing needs, or various other products, are being met by the unorganized sector. Now, in order to uh, capture this market, you have to enter that unorganized space. So, in order to enter that unorganized space, very important to understand what is driving the market. So when I understood this particular aspect, the first thing I did was uh, uh, understand what is the borrowing patterns of these markets. What are the segments sitting in that markets? What are the sectors which are small businesses or retailers who are meeting the demand of this market? What are their needs? Having understood that, the next thing was to understand uh, what are the rates at which they are borrowing. Once you understand the rates at which they are borrowing, then the next focus was where is this target group residing and how can I reach them? Now, while my branches had a presence in these markets, they were still operating in the traditional mindset where they were waiting for the customer to come. So the focus here was on uh, going to the doorstep of that market uh, target group, establishing trust, and then focusing on the customer service. So when you go to the customer uh, or your target group at his doorstep, what happens is you are the first one to meet him. And when you touch base with this target group uh, at their doorstep, it creates a visibility uh, which we call the first movers advantage, right? Now, having achieved that, now how do we do that? We uh, we did that by organizing various social events like medical camps, health camps, or going to the areas which are their hotspots. Like if you talk about rural markets, the rural markets mostly is farm sector. So they go to the APMC markets. So going to their hotspot, engaging with them in their comfort zone was the key. Now, in order to establish trust, we engaged with their influencers like Anganwadi workers, the local Talhati, the headmaster of the village, the panchayat uh, head, the local MLAs were applicable, and then also try to focus on the local religious events which are specific to that area, participating in that events. So by engaging these local influencers as our brand ambassadors, we were able to establish a certain amount of trust. Once we were established that trust, we tried to get them across to our branches. Once a few people came across and they realized the quality of the service and the speed with which we are able to meet their financial needs, then automatically it set up a chain reaction where word of mouth started, publicity started, and the entire villages started coming to our branches. And once these three aspects of going to the comfort zone of our target group, establishing trust, and reinforcing with the customer experience was established, the entire market, the rural strategy changed. And this allowed us to become a market leader in that particular catchment. So rather than focusing on a geography, we focused on the branch catchment. And when we started focusing on the branch catchment, we were able to leverage the untapped potential of that market. And we were able to take over the space which was being managed by the unorganized sector. So effectively, what happened is this allowed us to scale up our revenues to a great extent. And when the organization realized merit in what we were doing, it got adopted as an organization strategy. And now that is a strategy in most of the NBFC or the lending space today. And in order to break this mindset of current corporate, the only way we can do that is from pivoting from a metro uh, uh, centered approach to a rural approach and going at the doorstep of the customer. And if we can do that, the market share is there for you to capture. And that is how we can currently, that is the only way, in my opinion, we can break this mindset. Because the market is in the rural areas.
Absolutely, Mr. Jadhav. So, can I say that rural strategy isn't just a checkbox? It's a real growth opportunity when done with right intent.
Absolutely. There is no doubt about it. And that is the way forward. And any company which is adopting this rural strategy, irrespective of the product which they are dealing with, is giving them exponential benefits.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So moving ahead, Mr. Jadhav, with everything you have accomplished, from defense leadership to driving financial strategy at scale, it's hard not to wonder what's next for you. I mean, is there a new summit you are working towards, or maybe even stepping more actively into boardroom leadership and more strategic advisory roles?
Very apt question, because if you see my journey, I have journeyed from a regional level strategic unit management to a global or a pan-India level strategic business unit management. I have transitioned from a mid-level manager to a business head role, and currently at a country level role. This also reinforces the fact that wherever I have been given a additional responsibility or a new role, I have helmed it with the required uh, accuracy or required confidence, which has earned the confidence of the management. Now, having said that, this entire corporate journey is spread across two or three areas of business management, whether it is knowledge of markets or it is geographical span of control, managing large teams. So if you actually look at it in the essence, I have in the last few years and also in the military, I have helmed corporate policy, operations, strategy, uh, large team management, business development, and now in the current role, I am also managing private equity, fund capital management, fund mobilization. So if you see the entire gamut of uh, executive management or the business management, if we talk about, I have covered the entire gamut of activities of an strategic business unit. So it's a natural progression to get into a boardroom where I will be driving strategy at the global level. I'll be influencing the boards into uh, taking those decisions. I will be bringing my practical hands-on experience of running a business right down from a granular level to a strategic level. But the experience of scaling up businesses, how the market dynamics are moving, then influencing the social network, the various stakeholders, whether they are part of the organization or external stakeholders. how to influence them, how to manage them is what is is something which excites me, and I feel I'm ready for that. So that is what I aspire for right now.
Absolutely, Mr. Jadhav, and I have no doubt with your breadth of experience and clarity of purpose, the next chapter is going to be just as impactful, if not more. Okay, so listening to your journey, Mr. Jadhav, from defense policy to managing financial portfolios, you have had a front row seat to how systems succeed and also how they sometimes fall short. And it brings me to something that's becoming impossible to ignore in boardrooms today. Do you believe ESG and corporate governance have now become non-negotiable for building truly sustainable businesses?
Yeah, I think so. Why? Because today we are operating in a highly turbulent environment. And why it is turbulent? Because it is today governed by various factors, by rapid technological changes, globalization of the marketplace, political uncertainty, regional conflicts, and various other factors, social factors, local factors. Everything is adding to the mix of this uncertainty. So, in order to manage this uncertainty, a firm's strategy should be that while it ensures that the business is sustainable, it can also ensure year on year profitability. The revenue growths are significant while managing the entire environment. Having said that, we also need to understand that the firm's external environment has more impact on our governance and your survivability and sustainability of a corporate. So, keeping that in mind, it's important to have a holistic framework where you take into consideration the environmental impact, whether it is internal, external, of various stakeholders. What is your social impact? Again, whether it is internal or external, and how does it impact your overall governance? So today, if you have a common framework, it also allows you to undertake partnerships with other corporates where you can merge your strengths with their weaknesses. Because if you have a common framework, it is easy to for you to align quickly and uh, scale up your business. So ESG framework today is, I think, the backbone of corporate management, and any organization which is adopting this framework uh, will result in good corporate governance, a transparent, ethical corporate governance, which is for the benefit of the employees who are working and the uh, environment in which we are working, with enabling the social structure of whichever geography we are working in, with minimal impact on the environment uh, globally. So ESG, I feel, is the way forward.
Absolutely. And that's such a grounded and powerful take, Mr. Jadhav. I mean, you have seen it from both ends, policy and practice. And it really drives home just how central ESG and governance are in today's world.
Yes, I agree. And for our country to realize its economic goals, ESG is very important part of the corporate governance. For us to become globally competitive and ensure that we outpace the global markets, continue to outpace the global markets at the current rates or even more.
Rightly said, Mr. Jadhav. All right. So before we wrap up, one last question. I would love to ask, what has your experience been like with Directors Institute so far? And given your background and the leadership lens you bring, how has the program aligned with where you are in your journey?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, because initially, when I decided to transition into this role of getting into the boards or a CXO kind of role, uh, one of the very important or a pertinent question which used to kind of take my mind space was am I capable? Do I have the required value system or the work ethics to get into this bigger role or get into the boardroom? Once I kind of benchmarked myself, uh, then the next part was the how part. Okay, I'm ready for this. I feel I'm ready for this. But then how do I bridge that gap, that skill gap? And that is where Director Institute came into play. And they not only helped me bridge the skill gap, they also exposed me to the additional aspects like building up a personal brand, creating visibility for what impact you can bring in an organization. So overall, if you ask me, it's been a very good experience and pleasant experience to say the least.
Fantastic to hear that, Mr. Jadhav. It's always great when a learning journey truly aligns with the leadership path someone is already walking. Great to hear that, truly.
Thank you.
So let me tell you, Mr. Jadhav, this has been such a rich and energizing conversation. From your early days in uniform to steering large-scale transformations in the corporate world, you have shown us what multidimensional leadership truly looks like. So thank you for being so generous with your insights.
You for having me. Always a pleasure talking to you and looking forward to stay connected with your organization. And Jai Hind.
Absolutely, Jai Hind. And to our audiences, conversations like this are the reminder why we started FaceTime with leaders in the first place. So, to everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us on this episode of FaceTime with Leaders, brought to you by Directors Institute. We will be back soon with another leader, another story, and more perspectives from the boardroom and beyond. Until then, stay curious and keep leading forward. Thank you so much. Have a nice time. Jai Hind.